Us started. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our third Thursday. Actually, I think this might be the fourth Thursday, but thank you for joining us today. Delaney is out this week, so I'm going to take over for her. We will be recording this. I know we had some technical issues, so we'll make sure to send the recording and slides out to everyone who registered. And please feel free to use the chat. We'll be answering questions along the way and at the end. Go ahead, Mitch, take it over.
Cool. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am Mitch Doctor. I am the U.S. Commercial Master Trainer at Microsoft. Today, I get to talk a little bit about Lenovo and Windows 11 and kind of how Windows 11 is bringing us into our new future of hybrid work. But joining me, I do want to introduce two other people who will be around in chat and are great contacts. First off is Nicholas. Nick, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Carnevale. I am the Partner Account Manager with Microsoft, dedicated to TD SYNNEX. So really excited today to get some information out there about Windows 11 and about the how Lenovo is a great partner for us for some of these new devices. We've been trying to get our customers excited and really educate them and tell them that now is the time to get a new Windows 11 device. So Mitch is going to run through the exact reasons why to do that. But I also want to introduce part of my team, Krista Altman. She is internal to TD SYNNEX, and she is the Windows Pro Device Ambassador. So, Krista, say hello.
Hello, everybody. Like Nick said, my name is Krista Altman. I am the Business Development Manager for Windows Commercial Devices, which is the fancy way for saying everything to do with Windows is my jam. I am here to be a resource for all of you, so please feel free to, during, after, drop any of your questions in the box or reach out to us. We are just happy to be here and appreciate you guys taking the time today.
Excellent. Thank you all. That's awesome. With that being said, let's get started. Let's chat, right? What are we going to chat about today? We are going to chat about, I'm going to turn that off. Hopefully no one was getting echoes. It's possible. What we're going to chat about today is just Windows 11 in general. And let's start off in specific places. Let's just understand the numbers and why Windows 11, how it is, where it came from, and a couple of those things. So first of all, I hope this isn't a surprise to anybody, but hybrid work is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. The market and the landscape has evolved quite incredibly over the last 2 to 3 years, obviously, with hybrid workplace becoming really the new norm that we're seeing all over the place. Workers want more flexibility. Actually, over 70% of them want the flexibility of remote work or work from home, and back and forth are hybrid options. And 80% of managers say that they're expecting flexible work options to not change at all, if not even to evolve and pick up. So this is like, you're in the office 3 days, you're out 2 days, or you're back and you're fourth, or different weeks is different, whatever it is, whatever hybrid work might look like at an organization, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. But at the same time, I think it's really unique to see that the same set of employees, almost 70% of them, want more collaboration. They want more in-person interactions, which kind of goes against the whole, well, I want to work from home, or I want something more flexible, right? So this is the hybrid work paradox. And this really set Microsoft off on looking at how technology can help solve this paradox by giving kind of a foundation around collaboration with a new operating system like Windows 11 in order to empower all of our organizations and employees to be able to achieve whatever that looks like for them while still being remote and having that flexibility. The other thing we really know right now is that older PCs increase operational costs and they absolutely reduce productivity. We could just see here by a couple of these examples that older PCs are 6 times more likely to have problems that stop them from working or reducing IT efficiency than new Windows 11 PCs. This can equal up to over 100 hours of lost productivity time for employees who are just trying to manage through an old device that isn't productive, or it's not efficient, or it's not running correctly. And this can change quite readily. Now, it's not just about time, but it's also, of course, about money, right? So the total cost of owning a Windows PC, obviously Windows 10 PC in this example, 4 years or older is over $2,000 triple that of a brand new PC running Windows 11. And then to go back, when we talk about these 4+ year old Windows 10 PCs, I will be very frank, over 70% of all computing in the commercial market right now falls within that 4+year-old Windows 10 PCs. So there is a gigantic opportunity to go to our customers and go, why Windows 11? Well, here's why. Windows 11 is truly designed around our life now and around hybrid work. We did a lot of work around that in finding how Windows 11 can be more productive using either existing devices or new devices by simplifying the user interface and the user experience. The biggest change here for the user interface and experience that everybody has seen is that centered start menu. And we'll talk a little bit about why and how that happened here in a second. But we also took a step back and then we looked out in the future and what collaboration means. We know that work happens through collaboration. We don't always have somebody sitting next to us anymore, obviously, in this new hybrid work model. So the idea is, what's a smarter way and better ways of collaborating, whether that's using things like Microsoft Teams or integrating different software that better allows users to be heard or have their backgrounds blurred or have sound suppression and all those type of things just being built into the OS for better overall collaboration. Third, consistency. And you're going to go, consistency? What do you mean? I mean things like app compatibility and cloud management. The same type of tools that are being used at Windows 10 today, right now, at our customers is the exact same tools being used in Windows 11. So much so that Windows 11 is built on that same exact kind of core of Windows 10. So therefore, the same type of endpoint management software or anything for that matter being used for security policies on Windows 10 can actually run them side by side with brand new Windows 11 machines. So say maybe an organization isn't ready to fully upgrade everything in their arsenal to Windows 11. That's okay. Because if they're looking for new hardware, they can add Windows 11 to an existing environment and then manage both simultaneously with little to no corners that they have to turn around to make that work. Next, and this is the biggest by far, is security. I don't care who we talk to. I don't care who you are, who you're selling to, whoever that customer is. Security is top of mind and probably at the beginning of every single conversation you have every single day. And why? Because security is paramount to the existence of our organizations that we work with and our customers. Having our first true zero trust ready operating system, we're looking at protecting data and access to that data from absolutely anywhere because endpoints now live absolutely anywhere. And then to bring that all together, we need choice. And that's exactly what TD SYNNEX and Lenovo are doing together, is giving you the choice of right devices. With a plethora of devices, everything from workstations, two-in-ones, to flip and fold and pen and voice and anything else, and however you're looking at interacting with a Windows PC, there's a Windows 11 PC from Lenovo that is ready for the job at hand for your customers and their employees. But it goes one step further. Windows 11 is not really just about upgrade, right? And upgrading old devices. Believe it or not, like we already said, only about 30% or so devices out there are even eligible to upgrade to Windows 11. So that leaves that 70% or so we talked about earlier with 4+year-old devices that, well, it's time for a refresh. We understand commercial doesn't usually refresh within 3 to 4 years, and that it's kind of odd to think about, but there's huge pluses and advantages to going to Windows 11 today. And biggest and first and foremost is things like adding new collaboration experiences, the idea of touch, the idea of pen, but security is the reason for refresh and upsell today. Being able to have things like secured core PC and advanced Silica from our Silicon partners from AMD and Qualcomm and Intel, for instance, we're looking at brand new devices that are more protected and safe before they are even opened, meaning before that device is even turned on. So this happens to go to those minimum requirements. And there was a lot of talk in the media and whatnot about our minimum requirements for Windows 11 when they were first released. And the big two that say, well, no one's going to go to Windows 11 now is that TPM 2.0 and the UEFI Secure Boot. The TPM 2.0 actually enables the Windows PCs to use a Secure Boot. And in short, what is it? Well, We'll talk a little bit about more of it in depth here in just a short bit in our chat. But the idea of the TPM chip is it is a security chip that lives on the motherboard and next to the processor, allowing it to, say, load firmware and secure boot different registry files so that, God forbid, a bad act did get onto a computer, that it can't actually effect and maliciously affect anything that makes the device, say, boot up and be a device in the first place. So without these things, you can't go to Windows 11, but it also makes Windows 11 that much more secure, as well as allowing it to be called a zero trust ready OS. So let's look at each of those kind of other 4 or 5 pillars we talked about. Let's start with instantly productive. And I think instantly productive, it's really around one thing specifically. It was how to make the UI effortless. Not just effortless, but how do we make it calming? So we at Microsoft have user experience laboratories. And within those user experience laboratories, we were looking at one thing specifically: cognitive load. That the idea of, and I'm sure many of you, and I'm one, right? I sit in front of my computer all day long and all day, and and you're sitting and whatnot, but why do we feel tired after just using our computer? We haven't moved, we haven't been physically active, but we're physically tired. It's because we have a large cognitive load, right? Our brains are working and looking at different things on different screens and being able to run this app and this app and this app. So the idea of Microsoft, and when we were introducing new updates to Windows 10, which ended up becoming, of course, Windows 11, our new OS built around hybrid work and our kind of new world we live in, the idea was how to reduce cognitive load as much as possible, meaning making it easier on the end user. And we did that by being effortless and calm and centering that start menu. So what folks want is smack dab in front of them, right? Especially think of those gigantic 32-inch or 36-inch widescreen format screens where, if you want to go and you got to, your whole head has to travel to the bottom of the screen rather than straight up and down and being centered. And that was part of the start menu, making it just front and center. But it's also coherent, right? The OS and apps work the same way they always have, and they're extremely seamless together. But it's also familiar. Windows 11 isn't brand new, right, to the way it feels. It feels very similar to Windows 10, but has a lot of that added just kind of user experiences that make it just that much easier to adopt and get used to. And then we talked about smarter collaboration a little bit. Being able to smarter collaborate from absolutely anywhere is by far none the biggest step into the future that we see. Being able to utilize things like Microsoft Teams or Microsoft Teams Rooms or any of the plethora of other applications out there that allow us to just talk and chat and collaborate all in real time. And there was a couple big things we needed to build into Windows 11 to make any collaboration experience excellent. And that was things like eliminating background noise automatically, or eliminating physical background distractions and auto blurring cameras. And that being built into Windows 11 and having noise suppression being built into Windows 11 is pretty incredible for collaboration. But there's also one new feature and a relatively newer update that I think changes the game forever. And that's a universal mute and unmute button. I don't know about you, but I can be in 5 or 6 different places at once across multiple desktops and multiple screens. And I'm sure we've all had that experience where they go, "Hey, Mitch, can you explain that?" And I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like out of nowhere on the spot. Then I have to go find Teams or remember the keyboard shortcuts to mute and unmute, but not again and never again. Because in Windows 11, on that taskbar on the bottom right, you now have a quick access to mute and unmute your microphone literally in any program that exists. So any program using your microphone on your computer can be muted and unmuted in a swift single click to the quick access icon on the toolbar. Seriously has changed my life for the better. We can also talk a little bit about consistency. So I'm going to just hit on this, and then we'll talk a little bit more of an extra step in consistency when we talk about deployment here in just a couple minutes. But the idea around consistency is making sure we empower our workforce for all the new capabilities. this is around deployment. How do we get Windows 11 devices alongside Windows 10 devices? How do we use that Windows 10 foundation and make it all work? So for instance, we are using the exact same deployment technologies like Windows Autopilot, for instance, or the endpoint management tools like Intune or any other mobile device management tool being used can all be used in concurrence with Windows 10 and Windows 11. So the consistency that already exists within a organization's infrastructure doesn't have to change while still adopting Windows 11 into their environment. And then being able to manage all that from a single pane of glass, from a cloud, from anywhere, say an IT professional exists, really makes it that much easier. So applications and programs and security policies and domain and identities and all of those things can really follow throughout the environment, literally no matter where that device endpoint might live. And let's talk about security because it's a little bit of an elephant in the room, especially when we can think about what the market landscape looks at security. The risk of hybrid work is extremely kind of ridiculous. When we think of employees, and this is through tests that were done by, say, testing emails, out of, I believe it was a little over 1,000 employees, when phishing emails were sent out to a test organization, 25%, 1 in 4 of them clicked on a phishing link in a phishing simulation email. That's not great. 1 out of 4. Okay. Well, let's see. But 70% of those gave away their password. Well, that's not great, right? When we can think of the one way, and feel free to throw in chat here. Does anybody know the number one way that a bad actor gets onto a company's network? It's a little rhetorical. I'll answer it here in just a sec. Feel free to throw it in chat if you think you know. But I think it's also probably pretty obvious in the direction I'm going here. But this is also incredible. In 2019 alone, over 1 billion URLs were launched around the World Wide Web, specifically to phish credentials and to get credentials from folks. But it doesn't stop at large businesses. And I think that's really important, that a lot of SMBs think they're protected because, well, they're a small business. But it's just not true. In in 2020 alone, out of all the cyber threats that were looked at, over almost go back, 1/3 of all those cyber threats actually targeted a small business. When we can think of the kind of super minimal of mitigating a cyber threat for a small business can cost upwards of $150,000. At least the small business owners I know can't just throw around cash like that to mitigate a cyber threat. And when it starts at $150,000, but can cost upwards of millions of dollars to mitigate and recover from some type of cyber threat attack. And at the same time, out of those small businesses that were threatened, over 60% of them were also out of business, meaning they were not able to operate. So not only do they have to spend money they probably don't have, they're not making income either because they've stopped a full-blown operation to their business. Unfortunately, a cyber threat to a small business can truly equal death of that business quite quickly. And this brings us back to what's the number one way of people getting into a business? Well, in breaches alone in the last year, 82% of breaches have been through the human element, aka someone falling victim to phishing. So what do we do? Well, Windows 11, first off and foremost, has security on by default. From the get-go, security is ready to go. But our security also exists from the chip, meaning the chipset itself, all the way out to the cloud. Number one, hardware. We talked about that TPM 2.0 chip a little while ago, and that idea of having that TPM along with different processors, take Intel's vPro platform business processors, for instance, with added layers of security. This is an idea of hardware root of trust. Knowing that a device and its information is secured before the device is even turned on can go far above and beyond anything that's come before that. We've also looking at protecting the operating system itself as well as its individual applications. By being able to take advantage of that TPM or that encrypted security chip, we are able to run things like BitLocker, which allows us to encrypt entire drives or entire operating systems, or using it to use virtualized based security bubbles that protect access and data within company applications existing on a single outboard endpoint device. And then we've extended that security again all the way out to the actual user identities. What do I mean? Well, if passwords are so not safe because people give them away accidentally, why don't we just get rid of them altogether? It's exactly what we're talking about with Windows 11 and using things like Azure and Microsoft 365, enabling organizations to literally throw passwords away and adopt things like two-factor authentication or using Windows Hello for Business, where biometric data, whether that's a fingerprint or a camera or a PIN code, and having those things saved on a device on, you guessed it, that TPM 2.0 module chip. All of those things allow every accessed individual to access the correct data at the, say, server or cloud or endpoint that they're trying to access, and that an organization knows exactly who has access to what. And then lastly, this extends all the way out into the cloud, into Azure and Intune and management. Why? Because that's what allows us to control all of these things, whether it's individual security policies or who with what identity gets access to what. So for instance, if we're talking about maybe it's a small business and the small business has a sales team, they have a marketing team, they have an accounting team, they have an IT team, and maybe they have a couple of people on eSuite. Great. Does the accounting team and IT team need access to the same thing? No, of course not. They don't need access, right? Because the accounting information has nothing to do with IT's job. So the idea is different profiles and identities can be set up in the cloud so that individuals that belong to, say, the IT team are not going to see what the accounting team sees, or vice versa, or have the same type of permissions. So the idea of security is truly from the actual device's internal hardware all the way up to when it actually connects to the organization's cloud information. And then freedom of choice. What does this mean? This means there's devices out there. Lenovo makes a ton of wonderful devices, everything from their X1 Carbons to the Yoga line and their workstations and everything else in between to make sure there's the widest range of form factors, including pen and touch and voice, so that whomever is looking for a Windows device in general and looking to complete a certain job, whether that's somebody who's taking notes, whether that's somebody who's running the books on accounting, or if that's someone is doing large-scale video editing. The idea is that there is a Windows 11 device available from Lenovo running Windows 11 Professional to accomplish the tasks at hand, no matter which way you look at it. And then you're going to go, but how do we get the devices there? How do we make sure the right device is in the right person's hand with the right productivity tools in place? So what are customers doing right now? Well, a lot of them are doing this. They're using the old way of deploying computers. They're building custom images and they have different USBs for different people, and they have to keep updating it, and then they have to get the physical device, then they have to install on that device and deploy on that device. We're just talking about time and money for IT, right? And usually it's time and money IT really doesn't have. When we talk about on average, it can take upwards of 4 hours to get a single device ready to go for an end user. It's pretty incredible to just think about. When we look at tech and IT in general, 6 out of 10 IT decision makers are maintaining multiple versions and multiple images of Windows 10 and or 11. So when they procure devices, they need to know, oh, which device gets which image that belongs to whom, and then IT departments are they're lacking in time and money, right? But like this costs time and money to do, and it gets kind of ridiculous. So what if it was possible to, say, send a device straight to the end user, and that end user opens that device, logs in with their Microsoft tenant credentials, the device downloads its updates, and it is literally ready to go? That's what Windows Autopilot is. Windows Autopilot is a cloud-based deployment technology built into Windows 10 and 11 Pro devices. And the idea is that it uses different deployment configurations and identities and profiles in order to have Windows set itself up over the internet before it would even get through, say, the full-blown out-of-box experience. This can all be done in Microsoft Partner Center, as well as the mobile device management tools that are controlling Azure Active Directory, for instance. There's a couple things that are necessary: a Windows 10 or 11 Pro device. Of course, we want to be looking at 11 Pro devices, Azure Active Directory, and some type of mobile device management tool. We, of course, recommend Intune because usually on that same licensing with Azure AD, like a Microsoft 365 license, they have Intune as well. And this can all be set up there to truly make it seamless and painless for IT to be able to manage their devices as well as deploy devices very, very quickly at a fraction of the cost and time. So what's next for you? Well, how's customers getting Windows 11? Well, there's two different ways. One, if they have eligible devices, remember we said there's not a ton out there, but if they are eligible devices and if they're on, say, already on a Windows 10 environment and IT is managing those devices, meaning they're managing updates and sending Windows updates and whatnot through some type of management system, the Windows 11 update can actually be sent to those managed devices very quickly by IT if they deem it necessary once, say, testing is done. If it's an unmanaged device, meaning it's a device that can get its own updates and whatever can be installed onto it, and it's just connected to company information and access, if it is eligible, that Windows 11 update would already be sitting on that device. But what are we really talking about? Well, we just want new devices out there. And we already talked about this a little bit, that it is truly a device refresh opportunity that is going on with Windows 11, definitely not just an upgrade. So what are some conversation starters when you go ahead and talk to your customers? We want you to just strive and challenge your customer into thinking a little bit deeper with things like, hey, how old are your devices? How old is your operating system? Is it hindering your employees? Do you hear a lot of problems with things not opening or things opening really slow? Are they equipped to, deal with critical data? How are you protecting it? Are you protected to the cloud? Is hybrid work affecting how you can get devices to new folks? How are you deploying new devices to new folks who might never come to an office ever? And these are just a couple different ideas of just thought, being proactive and getting kind of those thought questions out there and challenging your customers to just think a little bit more on like, oh, maybe it is time to start really thinking about new devices. And that's where I'm actually going to leave you all thinking about that while I just say a quick thank you for having me. I know we are kind of coming down to the end of our time, but I am going to go out and I do have our moderators who actually are going to turn everybody's microphone and cameras on. So if you do want to come on live and ask a question, I am absolutely going to be able to do that. If you don't want to come on live, that's fine too. Please throw it here in chat. I can see it right now, so we can answer those questions live for you. Leave it at that. Live questions. Thank you, Krista, for pepping me up. Always feeling good about that. Like I got a little pat on my back for that.
I do. I love the excitement. Krista, we did have a question in the chat from Kevin. If you move to cloud, people are VDI and don't need more than a fast connection. I think that was a question in the chat.
Kevin, could you expand on that a little bit more on kind of, I think what you're asking for if we move to cloud deployment?
No, I'm saying since we're on the cloud, using the cloud, we just need a nice secure terminal and a very fast connection. Okay, right. We're in VDI mode. It's not like we're running render graphics locally. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So the thing that we have to do is have a good secure cloud around us, I guess you would say, or envelopment. Yep. And that's the best we can offer us and our customers.
Oh, 100%, right? And the idea is making sure they have the newest devices with the latest in hardware to make sure that those terminals stay fast and they're able to fully take advantage of better internet connections and what is happening over cloud, along with integrated security on that terminal. You're absolutely right.
Well, I've been trying to get everybody Gen 10 minimum. 11, 12 are coming out. So I want you at 10 today. I'm not going to sell you anything really less than that. So I know I can keep you for the next 5, 6 years in the proper envelopment.
Yep, 100%, right? And going to Gen 10 Intel processors and obviously the brand new Gen 12 vPro platform processors are incredibly powerful and have added security when working with the Windows 11 Pro device as well. So it is always something you can look into. We have a brand new Microsoft Intel campaign if you are interested in that as well, called Empower Possibilities. There is more information on both Microsoft's website and TD SYNNEX's website on that kind of Intel, Microsoft, Lenovo story to talk about.
Along with Propel and everything else, is that all together too?
So Propel's a little bit different.
Okay.
So Empower Possibilities is strictly a Intel Microsoft campaign that
Okay.
is actually OEM agnostic, meaning any OEM can take advantage of a marketing campaign with Intel vPro in their device, along with being able to pair with Windows 11 Pro.
Sounds great. And I got my vPro competency, so that would go right along with what we got going. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Nice.
You are so
If-
welcome.
You're so ahead of the curve. If you have any questions on anything specifically or you can't find it, I just dropped my email in the chat. So please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to track down anything you need.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, we do still have we have a couple. We have time. We have time. It's all good. Questions, comments, concerns? Is anybody having really decent conversations around Windows 11? Are customers still pushing back and going, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole? Like, we're really just curious, like, what is happening? Because you understand the voice of the customers. You're the ones out there in partnership with ourselves and TD SYNNEX making it happen. Or we're all amazing, and I'll just take that. I'll give a pat on my back for everybody. There you go.
I think it's always like an evolving answer too. Like it depends on who they're talking to, like every time I ask that question, I get a little bit of a mix. Depends on who they've spoken to that day, what type of vertical. Also, it's no surprise that a lot of our tech enthusiasts are on the top of the list to upgrade and do things, and others that are just very satisfied with what they've gotten used to.
Yeah. Some people are just used to the status quo, right? Like it is a thing when we understand, but right now and how we've changed the hybrid work and endpoints literally being no longer all behind a firewall, we have to really rethink about what devices need to have to keep everybody secure.
Yeah, and I like to refer to, I guess, with the devices, how they, especially you made an excellent point earlier about small to medium-sized businesses versus the large ones, because something else that the large organizations have, while there's this misconception that they're the target, is they have cybersecurity teams. They've got people always like doing fake phishing to kind of catch those habits. For the small to medium-sized companies, sometimes they have one tech person, and sometimes they just have a kind of a token millennial who adopts that role, but is not fully prepared to cover everyone. And so we really need these devices to kind of be an extension of your security team to do a lot of that background checking for you. And that's what I always like to express. So as somebody with a father who has a small business and by his own definition is a stereotypical boomer, we have these conversations about what security measures he needs to put on his computer and what it does for him for the safety of his business and all of the employees. So yeah, it's just a different type of when it comes to security benefits route that I find is a good little icebreaker. Not that if you guys are seeking for any more ways to connect with those customers.
With that,
and I did ask, he's very okay with those stories.
Oh, okay.
I've gotten full permission to tell stories.
Krista has permission to make fun of her dad online. So moving forward, if there aren't any other questions, we're gonna call this up to a close. I want to thank TD SYNNEX and Lenovo for having me and the Microsoft team today for chatting with you all. If you're interested in what's happening on Windows Commercial in general, you can actually find me on LinkedIn, where I do send out pretty reasonable updates once or twice a week, and that's on linkedin.com/in/Mitch Doctor. You can, of course, contact Krista Altman at TD SYNNEX as well for all of your licensing as well as campaign specifics and all that good stuff. And with that, thank you for having me. Jordan, did you have anything else that before we go?
That is it. Thank you so much, Mitch, and the TD SYNNEX Microsoft team for joining us today. And again, we will send the deck and the recording out to everyone as well as the team's info. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Y'all have a great rest of your week.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.